Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Material UI series that I'm doing right now. So on this video we will be looking at adding custom theme to our app. So we will be looking into create theme and the theme provider from Material UI. If you guys enjoy the content of the channel, give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get started in the video. So this is the a project that I'm opening from my last video. I think I did a video on a dialog component from Material UI. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the same project for this entire series, so that because I don't want to create a bunch of like junk repos on my GitHub. So I'll be creating a branch like out of that repo and like adding the features based on that. So right now I'm just on add custom theme branch. I'm not on master. So as soon as the video goes out, I will merge the changes so that you guys can check it out on the master branch. So we will be looking into custom theming today. So if we go to Material UI docs and look for theming, otherwise there is like bunch of things that you can do. Because a lot of times you will have enough information or enough like good like components if you just use the default stuff from Material UI. But there are some times where you wanna add a custom thing based on like your need, basically what you want to have on your page. Let's say if you don't like this color, rather than applying it through the CSS, you can use the custom theme and achieve that. So that way you will write less amount of code and you will have consistent like a colors or like CSS properties across your app. So what do I mean by customizing theme, right? Let's say for example, if we go to the dialog component that we created. Let me close this bar here. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so that way it's gonna be visible for you guys. Right here, right? Let's go to dialog actions here for the button. So over here, we had to use text transform to inherit because it was changing all of the text to uppercase, because we don't need to do that on all of the files, right? Because if we just add it as the custom styles for now. And let's say over here what we are doing is if you check the variant, not the variant, color, we are doing secondary and error. Let's say we don't want to have this kind of color for our error color, and we don't want to have this kind of color for our secondary color. So how do we change it? The good way to change it, the normal way to change it is to change it through CSS, right? Like we did here. You can take the same example on the button that we have an app.js file. Here we're changing the like we have the color of primary and it has this color. How do we change it? Add a SX prop, right? But if we think about like if you have a really small project, you could do that through CSS. But let's say if you're building like really big application, that's not going to scale well because you're just going to have bunch of like duplicate CSS in there. So why not like go to the root level and change this primary property so that it suits your need? And that's what we will be looking at today. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top level of our app, which is the index.js file, and this is where we will add our custom theme. So there are a couple of things that we need to bring in from Material UI. I'm going to bring in create theme function. So that's going to help to create our custom theme. And after you create a custom theme, you need to wrap inside the theme provider so that you can override the default themes from Material UI. So that's why we need a theme provider as well. So all of them are going to come from at movie-material /styles. So this is where all of those things are going to come from. Here, the only thing left to do is I'm going to create a theme object. I can do const actually, not the object actually. I'm going to call create a theme constant here by calling the create theme function that I brought in earlier. And this function is going to take an object, and over here you can provide a bunch of properties to it. So let's not worry about it right now. So what we can do is let's make sure we do the basics right. So I'm going to copy that theme, and right under this, right under here, root.render, right? What we want to do is we want to wrap our app with that theme provider that we brought. So I'm just going to call this theme provider, and oops, not that. I don't know why it does that. inside the theme provider here, I'm gonna grab this app. Let's go here, let's move that thing there. Now what we need to do is we need to pass so basically what this does is this theme provider object right now, if we just run it, the reason I wanted to show you guys it's just blank screen right now. I think it should say something regarding theme. The prop theme is marked as required. Yeah, right here. So it says that the prop theme is marked as required in theme provider, but the value is undefined. The reason it is saying that is because we haven't provided the theme prop yet. Because we haven't provided, that's why it says it's undefined, so that's why it can't run that. So well, what we can do is we can use that theme prop and just pass the theme in it, because that's the theme that we want, right? Okay, what's going on here? This is because of this. Theme equals theme. JS6 must have at least one parent oh, right here. It shouldn't be the closing. Right there. Okay, now our app works as expected, but we still see the default, like styles. But that's not a problem. We can fix that because we haven't added anything in our create theme, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by what we want to target. Let's start by changing the color. Like whenever we call this primary color, what do we want to do? Let's make sure like we change those. So I'm going to open that dialog component here as well. Let's bring an index.js file here. So let's say if you want to change the color. So before you change the color, let's go to Moidoc. So how do we do that? So it should be inside the palette object. Every time you want to make a change, basically you will call this create theme, and inside the palette you can provide the property, which in this case is our primary, right? And what I will also do is I'll make this button a primary for our agree button. So it's going to look like this right now. Let's go to index.js file. Let's say I want to change that color for primary. So what I can do is I can call the palette object, and then here inside that object, what do we want to target? I'm trying to target the primary color at this time. You can do primary, and inside this object I can provide various properties. So various properties like what do we want to pass in for, let's say, what should be the main color. If you look here, I think they provide you enough information here. Right here. So right now it says that like if you go to primary palette or primary.main, this is the primary color, and this is the secondary color dark. So basically we're trying to target the main property out of it. So that's what we will be doing today. I want to target main, and inside the main, I don't think we need to pass the object in here. I think we can just simply pass the color property here. So just watch the color here. Oh, it's breaking. Let me do this. If I refresh, it's gonna work. Why is my app not working at all? Primary, oh, I think I have an empty object, that's why it's not working, and I'm using that primary. But I'm sure what was the color earlier, so that's fine. So inside the main, I can provide like the color. Let me grab a color here. Let's say every time we call primary, this is the color that I want to use. Right there. Now as you can see, our color has been changed, and that applies to this agree button as well. And that is cool. And let's say I want to provide, so let's say for this disagree button, I want to have a property of secondary. As soon as I do that, it changes the color here, but let's say I don't want this color on my entire app. So every time I call the secondary color, I want to have like my own custom properties. And it's quite easy to do that. So if you just want to go to the object right underneath the primary and call this secondary, and within that object you can provide what should be the main color, and there you can provide your color property. Let me grab a hex value from my secondary. Now, as soon as I do that, if I come back here, as you can see, the color has been changed, and I like this color, and I'm pretty much happy with that. So it's not only like applies to colors. You can go beyond that. Let's say if I go to this style component, and let's say let's look at this typographic component, for example. What I'm seeing here is I'm doing various variants, right? H1 and body one. And if you see here, what I'm doing is for the H1 tag, I'm applying font size of 1.5 rem, which is around 24 pixels, and font weight of 800. So let's see if you have bunch of stuff which is going to require H1 and it's going to stay consistent across the app, then it doesn't make sense to write the CSS for all of your like those components, right? So we're not going to do that. So rather, every time we call this H1 variant, it should apply the styles by itself. I'll get rid of this. As soon as I do that, that looks ugly right now, but it's fine. We're gonna fix that. In order to apply, like the custom typography, what you can do is right underneath this palette object, go there and call this typography, and over here you can provide various properties to it. Let's say, what do I want to change? If let's say I want to make some changes whenever I call this H1 variant, right? Which is in this case is right here. Here, what I'm going to do is I can just directly call the variant that I want to change. I want to do H1. So let's say if the inside the typographic component, if someone calls the variant of H1, I want to provide the font size of 1.5 rem, and then font weight of I want to do font weight of 800, not 900. It's going to be 800. So now what's going to happen is if I open this dialog, all of a sudden this is fixed. But if you check here, we don't have any custom like styles, right? So this is the beauty of like using your own custom classes or anything, like if you customize it. So that way it's going to reduce the number of code that you're going to write, and it's going to be really less amount of like a CSS code. And what I believe is if you're dealing with CSS, the less is always better. You don't want to write a bunch of CSS. And okay, so what do we want to do for, let's say, over here? Like right now I think it looks good. We're not applying any font size, but let's just, for the sake of this video, let's customize our body one too. I will just copy that variant, and inside there I'm just going to provide a font size of if it's a body one, then I'll just do 1 rem. I doubt we are gonna see any changes at all, because I think it was already 1 rem. Alright, now we know how to deal with the text. You don't have to just rely on the text. You can even make a change to the components. So what do I mean by components? By components, whatever you have underneath this component section on Material UI, you can customize those according to your need. So we're going to do that for our button. So if I come back to this dialog component, here, what we did was we call this text transform to inherit, right? So that it won't show those uppercase letters. We're gonna get rid of that because it doesn't make sense to call this text transform every time, because we wanna show the button like how it's being rendered. So basically, if it has a uppercase or lowercase, like we wanna render that. It shouldn't change it to uppercase. We're gonna do that on the root level so that we don't have to write a CSS for it. In order to customize your components, you can call the components property here, and within that components property, you can provide various components. I think that there naming convention comes from movie first, and then I think the name of the component, I think you need to do UI movie. So that way you see these are all of the list of components that you can customize it. But right now we're interested in button. Let's customize that. And in order to customize the styles, you need to call the styles override property, and within there I can pass the object, And within that object, if you remember and if you know the classes, if you have some sort of idea on the classes, there is like the root class basically, where it holds like bunch of children in it. I think let's see if I can show you here. I think if I go to button and go to API, it should list bunch of classes somewhere. Right here. So for the MUI button based root, right? So every material UI component is going to have a root property. So that's where we need to make a change. So I'll just call that root, and here I can provide the object with our properties. So let's say every time I create a button, until or unless I override it, the default should be, let's say I want to provide a font size of around 14 pixels. I think it should be 0.875 rem. And if I save it, is it even making a change? I don't know. Right now I can't tell. And the main thing that I wanted to, we wanted to change, right, text transform property, right, because we don't want to have uppercase text. No text transform to not uppercase. It should be none. Let's see if that does it. Yep, right there. As you can see, now it's not uppercase anymore, and it goes it applies over here as well. So as you can see, if you as your project grows, right, this small and tiny stuff is going to help you a lot, because you don't have to write custom CSS for those. I think that's it. In terms of what I'm going to do, you could explore here, go to MUI docs and go to, I think it's in customize. Yep. You can we looked at typograph. I think they have a really good documentation on dark mode too. You could check all of these properties out. You can even make changes to your breakpoints if you don't want to use the defaults from Material UI. So I would leave that homework to you guys. So please check this docs. This is really cool docs, by the way. And I think I'm gonna end the video right here. So I hope it provided you some sort of value on how to get started with the customizing on Material UI components. So if you guys think so, give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel. On the next video, I'll bring on another Material UI content on the channel. So I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.